Thank you, Kathy, and thank you all for saying all of these things about Phil. And as I've said before, I mean, Phil's the one that does the stuff and we just talk about it. So this is all pretty amazing. I want to leave this mic open here for anyone who wants to come up and say a few words about Phil. We haven't had a chance to get to every one of you, so I thought I'd give you this opportunity. Come on up. Don't be shy.
Hi, my name is Jon Green. I'm a 1985 graduate, and just wanted to share a couple of quick notes from my past with Phil and my present with Phil. I was in engineering school, had gotten my way through dynamics, which was traumatic, or statics first, then dynamics, and was really questioning at the time whether I was going to stay with this or not. I just wasn't sure about it. And decided to give it one more semester and ended up in, what else? Thermodynamics with Dr. Schmidt. And it changed my life. Dr. Schmidt's passion for teaching that we've heard so much about tonight was just, it had an impact on me that's lasted till this day. I stayed with engineering. I got good at engineering. It turned me around. I learned how to work hard and I learned how to be passionate about it. I took every class I could possibly take with Dr. Schmidt from that day forward, including heat transfer and measurements and instrumentation, and ended up grading heat transfer for Dr. Schmidt, which was one of the best educational experiences I ever had. I learned far more about heat transfer by grading it than I did by taking it. And there's one funny story that I think after all these years is okay to share, Phil. In that day, a student grader was not supposed to grade exams, only the homework. And we had a kind of a backdoor deal. I ended up grading the tests and getting the maximum allowable pay for each period as a result of that. And just kind of a, I think it's okay to share that at this point.
It only happened once.
Okay. But it was definitely on the down low back then. And so, again, and I got through engineering school. It taught me a way of thinking and a way of being that has stuck with me since, and it's invaluable to me. I did go on directly to business school and went on my merry way and got off into the semiconductor industry. Well, let me back up. The one last thing I did with Phil was worked for Software Solutions for a year after when I was in graduate school, the business school, as a programmer. And so that was a great experience as well, and getting into the private sector with Dr. Schmidt and Dr. Howell. So, but then 20 years went by, so I want to fast forward because there's another interesting wrinkle to the story. I've always loved music and evolved into hosting house concerts, and got to know several musicians around town, including Danny and Carrie, and got to be good friends with Danny. And went out one night in about 2006, maybe, to the Cactus Cafe to see a show. And after the show, I saw Dr. Schmidt in the lobby. I thought, my gosh, it's been 20 years. So I went over. It took a little memory jogging, I think. We talked for a while and connected all the dots. And I still wasn't connecting all the dots, though, because then Phil says to me, well, how did you like my son's show? And it was just astonishing for me because Danny and I were friends and knew each other fairly well at the time. And lo and behold, we come full circle. All the dots are connected. And so it has just been a delight to be reacquainted with Phil, get to know Donna better, and we see each other on a fairly regular basis now and have music as a common foundation. So it's just wonderful. And again, I just want to reiterate, you changed my life for the better and have had an impact that'll last forever. So thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Jorge Ramirez, 1995.
I've been trying to figure out what stories to tell about Dr. Schmidt. I have, like all you, I have a ton of stories, and some of them are funny, some of them are interesting, some of them are educational. Let me first clear up. That helps. Let me first clear up that Dr. Schmidt, not everybody loves him because his tests are easy. He's a great teacher. His tests are amazingly hard, and that's what's very difficult to be loved, yet with such amazingly hard tests. I know, I don't know what to do here. This is... I also want to say that there are two teachers that stand out. Like everybody that was touched by Dr. Schmidt, who apparently has a Midas touch, I went on to business school and I went to law school, and there are two professors that stand out from all that entire career, and that would be Dr. Vliet and Dr. Schmidt. A great team. They were next together when I was in school. Totally different stories, and they inspired me differently, but they're both wonderful teachers. I also had the opportunity to work with Dr. Schmidt on, and the name of this is outstanding, abatement and recovery of volatile organic compounds through microwave regeneration. I had a little part, probably just proofreading, but the funny part about this is that I was walking through his lab and he pointed out a microwave. The strange thing about this microwave was it was all metal. It was metallic. And to me, I thought, well, wait a second, how can a microwave be made out of metal? If you put a fork in a microwave, there's sparks and whatnot. And he pointed out the fact that, and of course I was naive, that it was because of the folds. If you put something flat, that nothing goes wrong in a microwave. Speaking of learning from Dr. Schmidt as time goes by, fast forward to 2008, 2010, my microwave in my house wasn't working and it was sparking. And like an engineer, I wanted to fix it, and I looked into the microwave. The only thing you see in a microwave, and trust this, go look at it at home today, is a little cover that says, "Do not remove." So I removed it. And inside was a little spinning disc, and I took it off, and there was a piece of metal that was charred, like burnt. And I just, all of a sudden, there was a file in the back of my head, and I remembered Dr. Schmidt about things being flat, so I filed it away. I put it in, and sure enough, I guarantee you that microwave's working right now. As a matter of fact, I know it is because I've been to that house, and it's still working. On the inspirational side, I have two stories. I've been communicating with Dr. Schmidt since I graduated, and I was trying to find someone who would come work for us. I work for the state of Texas. And I wanted to find an intern. And he recommended someone very highly, and his name was Edgar. Edgar is in a wheelchair. He is disabled, and he has a dog to assist him. I was working at an agency that was on a shoestring budget, and I needed this person to be able to be agile and work quickly. And I'm not perfect. I had some thoughts, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I need this person to be able to work, and I need someone good. It's Dr. Schmidt, I gotta take him in. Dr. Schmidt, you helped me understand that people are capable of many, many things. To this day, I am trying to recruit Edgar to come work for me at the state of Texas. He recently turned me down. He works at Dell, and he's a wonderful engineer. He beat everybody that was there. One other story that I have, and this will be the last story. Dr. Schmidt credits me a lot for being a hard worker. I was at the school Saturdays and Sundays, early and late, and he gives me a lot of credit for all that work that I did, but he saw me there because he was there too. And I was there because his work and Dr. Vliet's work is extremely difficult to do, and the class and the tests are very, very difficult, to the point that if the pencil's not close enough when you're taking the test, it's the difference between an A and a B. But he gave me so much credit, and I come from a family, just like the other gentleman that was before, where there is no failure, and my father is very hard to impress. And he took the time, I don't know if you remember this, he bumped into him in an airport, he took my father aside, and he said, "Your son is one of our best." That meant a lot to me. It really meant a lot to me because it impressed my dad, and he's a very difficult man to impress. You've done a lot. You've done a lot for me, and apparently a lot for these folks, and I wish you the best in your retirement. know that you've made a difference, and hopefully one of these days I'll get the opportunity to teach as well. Thank you, Doctor.
Hello, my name is Nathan Rylander, and I'm brother of Jonathan who spoke earlier. And I just wanted to share a really brief thing that I learned from Dr. Schmidt and also the entire engineering faculty going through. So after I graduated in 2002, I ended up going into medicine and went to train down at UTMB down in Galveston. I learned very quickly that in engineering and the education process in medicine are very similar, but early on, very difficult for me because I didn't learn how to memorize a darn thing. And medicine is a lot about memorization early on. And so it was hard, but I stuck with it. I stuck with the tenacity. I enjoyed what I did, and I learned from Dr. Schmidt, do what you enjoy. You'll be successful. You'll do just fine. And so I stuck with it. And I ended up getting into a cardiology class, which is really the only class in medical school that I excelled at. But if you think about, it's fluid dynamics, it's pumps, it's things going down pipelines, it's a beating heart. And it made sense. And the reason it made sense is from individuals like Dr. Schmidt, Dr. Panton, and the other faculty that are here. So one of the things that I learned was that, just stick with it. And what you realize is that after a period of time, the memorization goes by, and that engineering foundation of logical thought progression, problem solving, is applied to every aspect in the world, including my field of medicine, and I'm very grateful for you and the other faculty that are here. Thank you.
I wasn't planning on saying something tonight because I knew that there were going to be people speaking. But I wouldn't want to come all the way here and have this opportunity to talk with all of you tonight about how proud I am and how much I love my brother-in-law, Phil. I'm Ken Packer. I'm Donna's brother. I'm from where we grew up in Palo Alto, California. And I may have known Phil longer than most of you here. And it has been with all joy and delight and pride. I'll never forget the day that I got to meet Phil. Donna brought Phil home for us to meet him. They met on a blind date, thanks to Phil's brother and Leslie's husband, Gary. And it's love at first sight. And it was all family from first sight. Donna was at Cal Berkeley. Phil was getting his master's and PhD at Stanford. It's a great rivalry. And it sort of tells you something about the patience and the love. Look at the shirt he's wearing. Look at the color. There's so much love that he has here for UT and UT has for him. And it's also rightfully so. It goes way back from when we met, and it was love at first sight. And I'll never forget when I was in high school, going across the street at Palo Alto High School, if anybody knows the area there at Stanford University. Now, when they got married after Donna's junior year of Berkeley. Phil was living then at Berkeley, commuting every day to Palo Alto to Stanford to complete his PhD degree. One of the happiest days was when he got his PhD. One of the saddest days was when they were leaving. And when I was in high school, I made it a point. I was so fortunate to be able to study in his office there my high school studies. And I did well in school and went on to school. And in great part to Phil. Phil was a great role model for me, as he was for all of his students, and all of us here. He made everything fascinating. There's certain words that came out. I'm sitting here listening. There's a lot of things, common denominator for all of us to have experienced with Phil. And one thing I must say too, when I was looking at all those distinguished awards out there, I knew of each and every one because I heard of each and every one and how proud I am. But I never saw them until tonight. That's how humble he is. and to be, distinguished professor at the University of Texas, State of Texas, and all of this. But I heard it before at Stanford, when he was a student there. I talked to people at Stanford. Of course I know Dr. Schmidt, and here too. Yeah, I talk with students anywhere in the country from UT. They know and love Dr. Schmidt, and that's the way I always felt growing up. He inspired me. He greatly inspired me. He always made things fascinating, and I'll mention a couple stories right now that nobody would share, nobody knows. And they were always so fun. We'd be around the dining room table. We'd have a wonderful meal together, always. And it's always about family and friends. They entertain at their homes. Many of us have been there, right? Or look at here. Amy coming from Washington, D.C., Kathy from Alaska. Do you know how far she came to be here tonight in honor of Phil? Do you have any idea? It was like a day and a half of flying. And that was decades ago that they were together, and the love that they have for each other and the appreciation, it's just a reflection of Phil as a teacher and as a person. So here we are at the dining room table. Do you remember after dinner, what would we have? We'd have coffee after dinner. Phil would be fascinated with the thing. My mom would have the sugar and a little dispenser type of thing, the little prongs. And Phil would be there just studying this thing and just fascinated each and every time. And, it shows like astronomy is the perfect example. Taking all these children out, these kids out, and when I say children, kids of all ages, these star shows. It's fascinating. Phil turned me on to the space program. You know how long ago that was? That was the Apollo program. And we were together. Am I not right? You were at Bell Labs then? And my mom and I, we were driving on the freeway. We were visiting. Happened to be my birthday, 1969. Anybody remember that? I heard us landing on the moon when I was on the freeway driving that day. It was so great. We didn't talk about Phil's athletic prowess, did we? Phil was a star track runner at MIT. MIT is very famous for its, yeah. And to hear stories though, it was fascinating about when you performed against Army, and they were honored at dinner. They got beat pretty soundly, but what a great experience that was to be there, MIT and Army together. Phil, when he was here at Texas, I'll never forget this, he got into crew. He went rowing at 6 o'clock in the mornings. He was so delighted. And, everything that he gets involved with, it's a fascination. And as I mentioned, it inspired me. Everything I studied, Phil was like a role model for me. And as he has been for so many of his students. Talking with the Rylanders, when I was talking with the young Rylander who spoke, to hear, here's one example, letter of recommendation. He went to Stanford, Phil's alma mater, and what a great, great career, and what a great relationship you all have. So I want to just close out by saying that from meeting Phil, Donna marrying Phil, Phil marrying Donna, what it has meant. They got married in 1966, August 21st, 1966. It was one of the greatest days, certainly, of my life, our lives. And to see the family and the friends come together that have met and been born from that, it's all a blessing. All of us here is all being a blessing. The one thing I'm so grateful for, the one thing I was mentioned too, we didn't talk about Prairie View. My mom, the first night she arrived in Prairie View. Anybody been to Prairie View? Good. Phil's the professor. He's in the minority there at Prairie View. And Mom was there that night, and it's after 10 o'clock at night. They all said goodnight. They turn off the lights. And my mom's sleeping in the living room, and she hears coming up to the door and a knock on the door. And Mom was wondering what's going on. And it was a student. Dr. Schmidt said that anybody, if they have a question, they can come and ask. And that was that. And how Phil is tutoring these kids. I was just visiting with them at their home, and he has this brilliant young mind, what is it, 11, 12 years old, working on projects that college people would just dream of, and how he turns people on. The one thing I was going to mention too, what I'm so very happy about and thankful for tonight, being here with all of you, is that it's so often when you see the awards and you hear these accolades, it's usually praising somebody when it's too late. I am so very grateful that we can all be here together for this, and we have so much time ahead and so much joy ahead. And Phil, I congratulate you and I thank you, bottom of my heart. Love you.
Okay, I also was not planning to talk tonight because I knew my husband was talking, and I actually don't like talking in front of crowds of people, even though I, for the past 4 years, was a middle school teacher, and you'd think would be okay at this. Middle school girls are a very different audience. Anyhow, I wanted to talk about an aspect that I don't think has been directly talked about tonight, but has been prevalent in all of the people who have talked, and that's his passion for engineering education. You see it in his teaching and in the way he changed the classroom for all of us who went through the school at UT and as mechanical engineers. And it was his passion that I saw him and talking to him in his office about that made me want to pursue that when I went off to Stanford and was luckily able to get into a lab where I could look at engineering education and how to improve that. And actually, my circuitous route, how did I become a middle school teacher, is for another time, but it all comes back to Phil and his passion for teaching and passion for getting people excited about engineering, and that I wanted to do that too. So thank you for all that you've done for all of us here.